Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again this morning. I do pray God's blessing on you as you go about your day. I think one of the biggest things that we have to get past, one of the biggest things that the enemy uses against us in our lives spiritually is our failures. I know this was especially true early on as a Christian. Um, when I had surrendered my life to Christ, and it wasn't long after that that I surrendered to be a preacher, and which was, I was happy to do. I was surrendering to God. I was responding to His grace and to the mercy that He gave to me. But then I would just do things that were outrageous. I mean, the sins even that I committed in my life, even after that point of surrender, I was just like, how in the world could someone who is going to be a preacher um, commit this sin? And it became very clear to me how the enemy can use the guilt of our failures after we've come to know Christ. He can use the guilt that we have over our failures to just keep us down in the dirt and keep us down in the mud and to keep us from ever really pursuing Christ the way that we know that we should, and ever even really taking hold of the things that God has for us. He just lets that guilt and that shame keep us down. It was at that point in my life that Romans 8, 1 and 2 became a very critical and freeing verse for me. And the verse is, "There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set me free from the law of sin and death." You see, the law of sin and death says this: if you sin, you die. If you sin, you die. But once you surrender your life to Christ as a response to the gospel of His death, burial, and resurrection, you now come under the law of the Spirit of life. He has moved you from the law of this of the spirit of sin and death, where if you sin, you die. He has moved you into the law of the Spirit of life, where because Christ conquered sin and conquered death, you and I do too. We were dead in our trespasses and sins, but then He made us alive. He made us alive. Without Christ and without a receiving of the gospel of Christ, inside, spiritually, you are dead. You are separated from God, and you will live separated from God eternally because you are dead, because you are under the law that says if you sin, you die. But once you receive Christ, you surrender the gospel, and you have faith in Him, and you surrender yourself to Him, and receive through belief and faith the gospel of Jesus Christ. He takes you away from the law of sin and death, and He puts life inside of you in His Spirit, and He makes you alive. And because Christ died, you don't die. Because Christ lives, you will live, because you live in Him. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set me free from the law of the sin and death. God bless you guys. Get out there. Faith today. Love you.